Hey, if you are the kind of person who is trying to reinvent yourself or maybe grow your empathy, then subscribe to the channel because those are the biggest takeaways that I get from listening to stories like this. Check it out. Michael, let's take it back, man.
Yeah,
What was the most important thing in the world to you when you were 11 years old?
man, I had a rough life, dude. And I didn't think there was going to be anything past a certain age. I really didn't have a lot of hope when I was 11 years old. So the most important thing to me was just creativity and music. Like that's the only thing that kept me like anything creative is what kept me grounded and like alive.
Let's
You
get
know, like
specific. Can you paint the picture a little bit? You're in fifth grade, I would imagine. What were
sixth grade,
the
I think, something like that. Yeah, I lived in a pretty impoverished neighborhood in North Hollywood, California. Lived in a projects like welfare housing. So I grew up in a very low income environment. I'm
Mhm.
half Mexican. I have a Mexican dad, but I grew up with my mom who's white, and I lived
Mhm.
in a predominantly Mexican or minority community, and I was treated as white, and like it sort of was rough for me because I knew that I was mixed, but I wasn't accepted that way. I was accepted that way at home, where my immediate family wasn't super stoked on the idea that I was brown. um,
Got
so I went from there not being accepted at home to the world, where they didn't accept me as the other part, as being brown, as being Mexican, and so it was rough for me as a kid. I didn't have a place to fit in, and I always was looking for acceptance from people and
Mhm.
trying to fit in with something. And I think to this day, I still kind of am, because I still feel like I don't have a place in the world.
Yeah, what did
Uh,
that look like when you were a kid trying to fit in? Can you give me some examples?
it was
What were the
violence.
attempts?
It was violent. There's a lot of violence because, I try to insert myself, and then I would get into big fights or beat up, and then just in general, trying to get to fit in as a white kid in that environment with gangsters and gangbangers. You got to be crazy. You got to be the craziest one in the group to make it,
Yeah.
to be respected. And so like I had to be pretty crazy, and I had to throw hands and
So you're feeling like you're on the outside, but you're almost like fighting your way in, yeah? You're not coming in
yeah.
softly. I get that. I come in hot usually.
A little bit, yeah. I felt like I didn't really have much of a choice, and I was sort of outsider in a lot of ways. Like I'm a sensitive person in general. I pick up on energy.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say like I'm psychic or anything, but there's something there, something going on with me that I don't know about. But so I've always been sensitive in that way, and then I'm a passionate person, and I'm sort of fearless in a lot of ways, and so. Yeah, and I'm witty too. I can be real. I can sting, with my words, and so yeah, I definitely ran my mouth a lot, but I can back it up.
Hey, real quick, if you are the kind of earth monster who probably needs therapy, be honest with yourself, but you'd rather listen to a podcast, it's me, then subscribe to the show because you found your people. The Earth Monster podcast, where we talk about the necessary delusions that have driven us through our lives. These are the biggest ideas that have gotten us out of bed in the morning, the fantasies that have propelled our lives forward. So, today I am talking to Michael Cole, aka Snog. I met him on Craigslist after posting this ad in California. No, Seattle. I think Seattle. Let's go back to my conversation with Michael. Did creativity mean acceptance? Was there a correlation there? Like,
It gave me something that made me important in a lot of ways. You know what I'm saying? Aside from just the pleasure I got out of doing it, I realized that people gravitated towards it. I will be drawing stuff on my peachy folder and all this stuff, and people, or my book covers, and the people say, "Oh, can you draw that for me on mine?" And then it sort of made me cool, and I was like, "Oh, this is dope. I like this."
yeah,
And so it gave me some, like, a little bit of an in. And then as far as the extension of that goes, is I told you I grew up in a place where there's a lot of gangs, and so I wouldn't say I made a business of it, but I utilized my abilities, my natural skills to my advantage, in that people will be putting up tags, and their placas, and where they're which is it's where they're putting up their territory and who's part of everything. And
yeah,
so anyways, I would be, a lot of people don't have the ability to hold a can and throw all that up and make it look nice and square.
yeah.
Same with Old English lettering and all that stuff. And I was just automatically interested in that and doing it. So my friends who are in gangs will be like, hey man, would you come out and do this for us? And we want to throw a big one up on the wall, and we'll watch your back and keep a lookout for you, and we'll provide everything, and you just go
They're
and just
outsourcing their tagging. They're like
basically,
hiring a consultant
to make it look nice and big. Like I did this one that was it was on a grocery store. I'm not going to say the name of it. It doesn't really matter. I suppose it's been long enough, but I mean, it was big, and it was white, and like there were lights shining down. It was very brazen, and we did it like 2 a.m, but you could see it driving down the street, and it was just like a statement piece.
I'm just imagining you being there, being the one doing it. Are you shining in those moments? Are you feeling like, oh man, like this is building you up, right? Because you've got this skill.
It was the only time I really felt accepted, other than just throwing hands, because that'll get you automatic respect. But there was the only time I felt like being myself, I was able to get that kind of a respect that I was looking for, that acceptance for sure.
So you're with all these groups, but you already kind of said you didn't feel like you fit in, and maybe you still kind of don't. I'm relating with you again. I'm wondering, not saying this is what you are, but I'm wondering if you relate with this at all. The feeling of being like a little bit of an interloper, someone who can sort of like move through the different groups, but isn't really a part of any one of them.
To a degree, yeah, and that's what would happen. Like, it's cool, and I would be hanging out with these dudes, and I'm just talking about the essays in general, because I hung out with my hippie friends. I followed the Grateful Dead, and so for a couple of years, and so I mean, I did a lot of things. But as far as like the essays go, like I give respect with them, like I said, by throwing hands or putting up, doing work in nefarious ways, I guess I could say. But then at the end of the day, when we're all relaxing and chilling and stuff, there's nothing for me. There will be no, like, because it's like I was considered white, or like the girls there were more interested in the essays, like the guys who were actually part of the group. And I was just kind of like the nerd. No matter what I did, I just kind of came off as like the nerdy white guy. So I just got nothing. And I felt like I'd be like, damn, there's some beautiful girls in here. But it's just like, for me, there was no, I had to be either a part of the gang or Mexican to be a part of it. And there was no way I could prove that I was Mexican, because I just looked very white.
And that feeling, how much of that do you think was real? And how much of that do you think was your, I'll say, necessary delusion?
No, for reals, that's a legit, observation. Definitely, it didn't happen every single time, and for sure, like, it happened enough to where I have multiple experiences and have it said to me in different ways. And then that plays over into everything. It's kind of the same thing. Like, I do take a lot of what people say and run with it, because I've had other experiences that are the same, and I don't feel accepted a lot of the times. And so then I'm automatically waiting for that moment when someone doesn't accept me. And I've had a lot of experiences where I've lost a lot of people who mattered to me in my life, or I thought they mattered. Long friendships, 25, 30-year friendships, and then just nothing, because all of a sudden one day, and then they had a problem with me. And I used to think that it was all me, because it's just like, man, that's happened to me a couple of times. But I realized over time that I stopped giving them whatever that thing was that they were getting from me at first. And over time, it just built up a resentment. That stuff that they liked about me was stuff that they came to resent. And a lot of the times, what happens with me is people see things in me that they wish they saw in themselves. I'm very, I'm always doing something. I'm always trying to live my dreams or make something big happen. Like I said, I have something I'm meant to do. And so I'm always going for that. And I believe that that's a real thing, that I'm here for a purpose. I'm meant to do something. And I think that a lot of people have given up on, if they had that feeling, they gave up on it. And I think my presence and my behavior makes them uncomfortable a lot of times. And so what seems really cool at first, this guy, he's doing all this stuff and he has all these dreams and he's imaginative and it's like a shiny object, And after a while, that shit gets old, and it gets to the point where they're like, they don't want to hear it anymore. So, like that they're going to work. I'm going to work too, but I'm saying like their whole thing is this thing, this life that they've subscribed to that I just can't seem to. And so that makes them uncomfortable, I think, a lot of the times, like my presence as who I just am and what I'm doing makes it shines a mirror back at them or something like that, And so that's what I've come to sort of realize is a lot of what's going on.
How much of that do you think is a delusion?
Everything's probably a delusion, right? Right?
I'm saying it real playfully, Michael. I'm not trying to push you too hard.
I feel you. Yeah. Don't trip. I'm in therapy, and so I've had this
Oh,
exact. I'm
nice.
actually as soon as I leave here, I'm going into the other room to be on a therapy session with my therapist. It happens
Oh,
every
I
2 weeks.
love it.
And so she said the same thing. What you're saying may not always be true. Basically, because I've come to expect certain things, or I see things a certain way, I put that as a reality out there, and make a lot of trouble for myself. That doesn't really. I think my wife has put it buying trouble. I think is what she called it one time. She said you're
Buying
buying
trouble?
trouble. Yeah. And
Hmm.
so basically, I'm just looking for it, and I'm investing and I'm invested in finding it because it does suck, man, to have these things happen to you and to invest time in stuff and people, and then you get like shitted on or not. It's not reciprocal,
Yeah.
and I've kind of really regressed. I'm inside of myself a lot. I don't have any friends. We moved here to Sacramento from Washington, and I just didn't look for any friends at all. I don't want to say I enjoy being on my own, but it's just there's a lot of work to put into being friends with someone for them to either have them shit on you, take advantage of you, or just be gone in the end or whatever. And it just feels like that's not what I think friendship is.
Yeah. It's interesting. I relate to what you're saying, and you know, I've had friends. I've been the one to sort of leave or ghost on friends, and I've also had a lot of friends leave or ghost on me. And boy, oh boy, is it disappointing when someone does it to you, right? But I think that what it really made me think, or has made me think, is like that's my karma. I don't know if that's a delusion for me or if that's how much of that's reality. But when it happens to me, I think even though I wasn't being a bad friend to this person, I have been that bad friend to somebody else, and so
True.
I'm getting I'm getting what I'm giving.
I understand
You
that.
know?
That's like a probably very Western view of karma, is whereas like we view karma as being a payback for something that we did, and I wouldn't say that's necessarily that isn't the reality of karma. But and I would also say that I don't think the universe cares about us enough to invest that much effort into being that nuanced with our
I don't
lessons.
even mean the universe, honestly. I think you just reap. I just believe you reap what you sow.
Sure, and
You
that's
know?
fair. It's fair to think that. I just mean to say that. So what I view it as, and I used to view that same thing because like I said, I thought to myself, well, what's the common denominator here? And you know what the common
Right.
denominator is? It's me, right?
Right.
But here's the thing about it. It doesn't really matter what the common denominator is because those people are gone and that part of my life is over. It was so hard, and I thought I would never, ever get through it. But what happened is I walked through the other side of that, and I came out a better person on the other side of it. And everything that I was afraid of, with the most, the person I'm referring to that really had the biggest impact, um, everything that I was afraid of about losing that person, coming out on the other side, it was like burned off all my skin. And I walked through that fire and I came out all the stuff that I ever dreamed possible. All my wildest dreams were waiting for me over there. And
Yeah.
so if that's something I would like to tell everybody, just to burn that skin off.
Yeah.
And
A lot
so
of
yeah, and
power in
so
that.
it was for the best. They were removing themselves from my life to make room for the stuff that I needed.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, totally aligned with you there. Um, Michael, let's take it back. So you're really sort of painting this picture of this character, right? And you're coming up and kind of getting a sense of you as this guy, feeling like you're on the outside, feeling like you got something to prove, maybe a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, feeling like you got these massive creative superpowers, and this is the tip of your spear. This is how you get everything you ever wanted. How do these ideas sort of like mature with you through your life? Like, take me to the time when you're like maybe I don't know, leaving home, stepping out into your independent adult life for the first time. Who are you? Where are you? What are the choices that you're making?
I left home when I was about 14 and a half, 15. Um, I sort of was, like I said, I was trouble. My mom got married to my stepdad, and then it was like rough. It was hard for everybody, and I had already kind of decided that I was the man of the house, and so that wasn't going to fly for me to have this other dude there. And it was like a hard couple years until I just bounced out on my own. We get along great now, but I had to go. I had to do my own thing. I was already one foot out the door when he came, really. Um,
Where do you
and
go at 14 when you leave the house? when you leave the house?
I started following the dead, and just, I mean, I was really actually very deep into drugs and selling drugs. Um, I was I was very involved in, like I said, like gang activity. I was, there's like a hippie. I was like a hippie thug. I don't know if that's the best way
Yeah.
I could put it. Uh, you see me still now. I'm still rocking the tie dyes, but yeah. So I had a kind of like I was like a street kid, and I was on the streets a lot. I was rolling. I was like 14, 15, rolling with like 20-something-year-olds, partying at college parties. I worked at I was getting little jobs and doing little things, and I always was trying to like hustle. I was always just hustling, and that was kind of my life. And so I would be following the dead sometimes, going to rainbow gatherings, parties, and like I was hitchhiking across the country. Sometimes I would just stop. I would get enamored of a girl, and I would be in Phoenix, Arizona for like 2 months or something, hanging out with this chick, and then I would just get bored of her one day and just be gone. Or I'd be just cruising through Alaska with my friend Michael, or across the country with my buddy Tim. And that was kind of my life for a very long time, really.
For how long?
Until Jerry died. Basically, what happened is I was like, on tour and everything, and I got burned. I was burning out of that whole existence. And
How many years is that?
I mean, it was over the course of like 3 years or something like that. But I'd become disillusioned. It wasn't a solid 3 years, but it was just over the course. Like I said, sometimes I'd be doing it. Sometimes I'd find other things to do.
Sure.
Be in San Francisco sometimes. Or just hanging out in my old neighborhood in Whittier, uptown Whittier, with me and all my buddies there, and just couch surfing or pitching on how places to rent, hanging out with college kids, whatever it was, homeless even, for a long time, by choice. But yeah, so like when Jerry died, that really I was already getting disillusioned with that whole lifestyle and everything, and there was like a togetherness vibe that I felt when I was there, and my family was sort of involved in the whole thing back before I was, so I was connected with the dead in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. And then, so I felt very at home there, but I originally thought that was like, there was like a real family vibe and that people cared, and they do. Don't want to say they don't, but there's a lot of people who take advantage of that, and who are soul suckers, and they are just in general suckers, and they will suck every last bit of your skin off you if you let them. And they're out there in droves, you know what I'm saying? And so it really sullied the experience for me once I had that happen to me one too many times. So when Jerry died, and I was in San Francisco for the memorial and everything, and we were in the middle of traveling at that time, and I had to go across country to get there. Everybody was really, really sad and all this stuff. But I saw this guy who had been on tour with me a bunch of times, and he had his dreadlocks cut off, and he was sort of dressed like a punk rock kid, and he had a shirt that said "Fuck Jerry Garcia," and I just was like, this same kid who sold me bad acid at one of the shows, and he was just such a fucking asshole. And I confronted him, and whatever it was, whatever happened. I'm not going to get into that, but that right there was sort of my tipping point where I was just like, fuck all this. And then I started to kind of go downhill because I didn't know what I was or what I was doing or where I belonged again. I'm like, I had broken up with my girlfriend at that just earlier on from that moment, like a little bit prior to that. And I don't know, it was just rough. It was rough for me. I was in a tough moment. And
how old are you around this point?
17, something like that.
17. And what does it look like when you start going down?
Heroin. It looks a lot like heroin. And so I'd already been on like every drug you could be on. I was basically on acid and mushrooms all day long, and weed and drinking. But I really got into the heroin, which was what I sold. And I'd never really dabbled in it, but I started dabbling in it. And then the dabbling went too far, and then I overdosed. Yeah. And I ended up in the hospital, and then I ended up in rehab. And I turned 18 in rehab. And
what's that birthday like?
It was hard, man. It was hard. It wasn't much different than much of my other birthdays. I don't, have a great experience with birthdays, but it was hard being on my own for the very first time with nobody I knew anywhere, and nobody to really care that it was my birthday. I mean, I had pissed off my family. They didn't want to really have anything to do with me, and I was just kind of in this place in the middle of nowhere in like a 350-acre, gigantic rehab, and it was crazy. Yeah, but I did it, and I got away from those drugs. I didn't stop using drugs, but I got away from the heroin at that moment, and sort of moved on from there.
And you were able to really step step away from the heroin that took you away from that kind of darker path?
That experience did. It was like, that was just what I needed. I never really had an interest in doing it anyways. And it was
Yeah.
basically a girl. Like I hooked up with some girl on the road, and then she was selling it to me. And then she was like, "What? You never tried?" And then I tried, and I was like, "Woo!" And then it just grew from there, you know. And so then it just got me. But I was able to because before I was able to go to the rehab, you have to go to a detox center. So I was just in there detoxing. So I got through all that, and then it was it was 180 days or something of rehab, being in there, where it's just a bunch of recovering addicts and stuff like that.
So when you come out of that, how much of that is like waking you up from like maybe a bigger delusion about what you've been doing? Like, is this kind of a turning point? Did it just kind of reset you to going back to what you'd been doing before the heroin sort of took over, or did it like really change the direction that you were taking?
I just gave less of a fuck when I came out of there. I remember as I was leaving the facility, because I felt so like, I turned 18 in there, and like, I was in a rebellious place as it was, but I mean, that age is a rebellious and sort of like crazy age in general. So I remember as I was leaving there, my buddy who picked me up had a sound system in his car, and I put Rage Against the, it was Rage Against the Machine, but fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, and we played that shit loud as fuck, going through the whole thing slow, because it's like a horseshoe shape to get out from where you go in to get out. And there's nothing they could do to me, so I just busted up loud, and I basically was just middle fingering it the whole way out of there, even though I turned myself in.
Right.
I was just middle fingering it.
And sounds like you took something
out.
Good. Sounds like you took value out of the program too, right?
I did actually, though. I did honestly get, even though it wasn't like, I did have those vibes of fuck you guys. I felt accomplished because I was the youngest person to accomplish the program. They even had the news crew come out, and there was like a news thing about my graduation, because I was the youngest person to graduate from their program. But at the same time, I just felt like I don't know, I just felt like a caged tiger or something. I went back out, dude. I just was like smoking crack. I started getting crazy, like deep, more drugs, as much as I could do, until it just all kind of it caved in on itself. Went through a whole bunch of different phases. I went to Alaska with my friend, and came back here to California, and I ended up like living in some van that my mom helped me with, like her friend in the town she was living in. And I sort of was like slowly getting myself back on my feet. I was 19 at this point, and so like I was still just a kid, and I met a girl, and then we moved in together, and that was like sort of like the next 20 or the next 17 years of my life.
Oh wow.
That relationship and like all that stuff that happened from there, moving to Washington. We were on drugs together for a long time, and then I moved to Washington to get away. I had like I hit bottom, or whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
I realized that basically I was still rolling with all the gangsters and dealing the drugs and everything bad you could imagine. And I was, like I said, I was on meth myself, and I knew like my friends were getting their heads blown off, going to prison, murdering people, and I saw a guy get his head bashed in with a baseball bat outside my house. Like all this stuff was going on. And I just knew that I was going to end up in one of those situations if I didn't go. There was like a big event that happened where it was like my girlfriend's mom and I got into it. And I just said, screw it, I can't do this anymore. And I left. And I think I like dabbled with meth one time. Like, so I walked in a room somewhere in Washington, and somebody was hitting a meth pipe, and I was like, oh. And then I was just like, I don't want to ever do this again. That was the last. And so that was like 2000 or something like that. So it's been like 25 years.
Wow.
But I worked really hard, but I carried all that with me. Even though when I moved to Washington, I carried that Southern California mentality with me up there, and I was very abrasive. My friend up there who helped me get up there was like, you have to chill, dude. These people are not trying to start shit with you. No one here is looking at you funny or wants to get a piece, like you're just chill out, So it took me a long time, and like I said, I was carrying that. It was like Mayberry when I moved there. It's a little different now, but I took advantage of that situation as far as being like one of the only bad guys in town, and so I kind of profited off that for a little while, and then and I kind of got myself together. I worked in aerospace for a long time. I'm still certified to do all that, and then I started growing weed, medical marijuana, and that's where I made a little bit of money that sort of helped me like move up in the world. But I was making a lot of money. It was legal money that I was making. I was making a lot of money, and I was just spending a lot of money at the bar and with friends and doing fun things.
Yeah.
And it just came to a point where I didn't know what. I lived on a lake. I mean, I had a wonderful life, and we just didn't know what we were doing anymore. It was just like, what is this, you know? And we ended up on the road, and then out on the road, I ended up in a farm in Humboldt, like a big giant weed farm there. And while we were up there, it just came to a head, and my ex left. She bounced out, and so I was crushed. I mean, absolutely crushed. We'd gone through a lot. We'd been through a lot of ups and downs, and I knew she was going to bounce, but she did it in just such a way that it kind of ruined me. Like I was out of town, and she just bounced on me, and I'm not going to get into any personal stuff between her and I, because it doesn't really matter. But you know, she did what she had to do, and I don't blame her. But it sucked bad at the time. It sucked real bad, and that was probably the most damaging thing that's ever happened to me. Really, I've lost a couple
Michael, that sounds like
life.
a big statement coming from you, man.
Yeah, no, it was. It messed me up, and it took a long time to get over that, because that was my whole life. You know, she was my whole life. That was like, we did everything together for almost 20 years, and so it's just like such a big adjustment. And I knew it was coming. I knew someday it was going to happen. I just was like in denial, and I honestly was afraid of that happening, and I just didn't want to do it. And so then when she did it for us, you know, and bounced out, I took it real bad, and I drank a lot, and I did a lot of damaging things to myself, and I even contemplated suicide at one point. It was the craziest thing. I was on this ranch, and there's this place called Ceremony Rock that's in Humboldt. It's on Highway 36, and it's not far. It's a walk from where I was on the ranch, but you could drive there in a couple minutes, 15 minutes or something. But it is a walk if you're walking. And I just decided I'm gonna do it. If I can walk all the way up, because it's on private property too. I said, if I can make it all the way there and to the top of Ceremony Rock, then I'm meant to go, and I'm gonna do it. And I wrote a letter, everything. I come to the decision, and I was walking out the door, and there's this guy on the ranch who was the owner's friend, and we had never really gotten along. We talked a little bit, but we weren't friendly in any way. I was walking out the door, and he comes walking up with a 12-pack of beer and some poker chips. And he's like, "What's up, Michael?" He's like, "What are you doing, man?" I'm like, And he's like, "We're going to get drunk, and I'm going to teach you how to play poker." And I was like, "No." And he's like, "We're getting drunk and playing poker tonight." And I'm like, And he's like, "No ums, we're doing this."
Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so we went back in and had drinks and played poker, and I didn't kill myself.
You gave me chills, man. You gave me chills. That's crazy.
It was crazy how it happened, because like I said, he never really showed any interest in speaking to me. We were actually kind of very different people. He's a military guy, and we're just very different personalities. So I just took that as a major sign, like, okay, that's another one of those things where it's like, you're meant to be here. Like, you're supposed to do something, because that wouldn't have happened. And a lot of things, I should have been dead a lot of times, to be honest with you. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, overdosed on drugs. I've been tied to a chair and beaten the shit out by a bunch of rival drug dealers when I was younger, like crazy shit. And I'm still here, and I'm still like, I have all this stuff. That's one of the biggest things I grapple with, is that there's all these, I've been through all that, and I have so much. I feel like I'm exploding with creativity. It's like coming out of every pore in my body. I smell like creativity. I fucking live it. If I don't make art, and I don't create, and I don't do stuff, I turn it around back on myself, and I'll start inventing messed up shit about me. And so like, it's like literally my life blood. It saves me, and it keeps me going, I don't know where I was going with that, but that's it. I am art.
I can see what you're talking about, though. I can see, I can see what you mean by you're sort of taking a lot of that energy, you're pointing it outward rather than inward.
That's the only thing I can do, man. If I don't know if I hold it in, because I have so much. I just think my brain is just constantly going. I think about the craziest shit, and I've always been very intelligent. Even when I was running the streets, people have always, that's one common thread, is like, my teachers would be like, why don't you just apply yourself? You could do so much. What the hell? And I'm like, that's why. How about, did you forget about this one? And just, I came from a place where I'm the first person that At 47, I became the first person to graduate from a college to earn a college degree on either side of my family. And I'm not taking anything away from anybody. I'm not trying to say I'm better. I want to say that out loud because I think a lot of people feel that. I feel that way, but I don't.
But you're
I'm just
proud.
trying to reverse and to undo generational traumas and cycles for my children. I don't even care about myself anymore. For them.
Michael, talk to me about your projects now, because quite honestly, now I'm real invested in you and in the guy that's making them. I almost just want to. I'm just going to tell you. I'm just going to cut what you talked to me about at the beginning, and let's just start with your story because it's so compelling. But now talk to me about your as a Mushroom Brothers.
The Fungus Brothers, yes.
The Fungus Brothers. Talk to me about Fungus Brothers and talk to me about Snog again. Talk to me about what you made these laser shows and you're doing all this stuff. You're getting a degree in art, yeah?
Yeah, a Bachelor of Arts, yeah, a BA in Studio Arts, new media and some sculpture going on in there. Yeah, I started that at 43. I went back to college. I was at my wife's behest. She believed in me enough. I would have never thought I would even get my GED. I did though, and I passed it with flying colors. It was crazy. After not being in school since I was 14, I mean, no studying, just done. And honor roll here, I got the highest scholarship offered by the art department, $5,000. And I get a lot of love from my fellow students and my teachers. I'm not really interested per se in being a paid artist. I really want to make sure that I'm doing something so my degree is really just to get me a job because I've been a freelance graphic designer for some time. But freelance, they don't, you're not promised anything, so I need to get cash from my kids so I have like a salary and health care and all these, maybe some retirement, so that's really what the degree is about. I'll be an artist no matter what. Snog is just my creative identity that I have, it was given to me by a kid who was 3 years old, about 20, it's almost 20 years ago now. And I just, it forced itself upon me, basically, the name. And I just said, fine. And then after taking it and building on that, I decided to accept it as my creative identity. And so Michael Cole doesn't make art, Snog does. When I'm making art, I'm making it through the lens of Snog and not through my own personal lens. It's hard to explain that, but it is what happens.
Where do we find Snog online again? You said you had Instagram.
Yeah, so you're going to find King Snog and at Snog's Art, which is, they're basically the same page. My King Snog page is more, I had a lot of followers on it, thousands of followers. I got rid of a bunch of them. I went through a little phase where I thought I wanted to be like an influencer and I was making videos and all this stuff. And it just was not for me. Fungus Brothers, that's the other thing, that's really my main thing, the Fungus Brothers. I mean, I've been working on that for a long time. It was just literally doodles. And then I just started building on it. And at first it was like a cartoon. And now it's like this live action animation hybrid show. And I really want to take on Saturday Night Live with it. I want to be the barometer for what's trending and hot. I want to be the, you get made on our show when you're a comedian or a band playing. That's what SNL does, but they're 50 years deep and they're not going to be forever. And I feel like it's time for a new show like this. So it's kind of like this variety show, but it has a personal investment in it on many levels as far as the characters go. And so this is another one of those attempts to push people to. I want to push people to be the best they can be, and it really it's me. I'm talking to myself, but this whole show is me trying to be the best person I can be. This is my attempt at contributing the most valuable thing that I think I can contribute. And when you were talking about ego earlier on, I wouldn't say the real, but there's a nexus in there that exists where I want to be. I, as a creative and a creator, want to be with the upper echelon of creatives. And not just a painter, not just a musician. I want to hang out with all them dudes, the fucking best, craziest, most outrageous, famous creatives. And how can I do that? That's what this Fungus Brothers is kind of like that. It's all right, well, how can I achieve that? I don't have any musical skills. I like music and I know a lot about it. Same with acting and movies and TV shows and all the comedians and all this stuff. I love all that stuff, but I don't have any real connection to it. So how can I ingratiate myself or insert myself into that world to where I can be a part of it?
Michael, just two quick things here. Well, first of all, do I have your permission to share this conversation on the podcast online?
Of
The
course,
things
yeah,
that I
yeah,
make to promote the podcast, yeah.
yeah. And I'm gonna promote it too. I got a bunch of buddies who are gonna promote it for me. I already spoke to them about it.
Awesome.
But
Well, thank you. And then just one more thing. Can you talk to me about some creature comforts?
smoke a lot of weed. Guaranteed. That's what I smoke a lot of weed. So I guess that would be my biggest creature comfort. I don't have a lot. That's really it. I smoke a grip of weed, and I don't really have any problem saying that. I love marijuana.
What do you smoke it out of?
I mostly take bong rips. Mostly bong
You
rips.
got
I
you got a
smoke
nice
some
bong
joints.
that you like?
Yeah, I got a little straight bong. I like a simple straight shooter. I don't like any extra bubbles on the end or anything. I'm very simple, purist kind of what I like. Actually, my most favorite would be to, with a magnifying glass, take some solar bong rips. That's the stuff.
Really?
Yeah, because you don't get any of the flavor from the lighter. You get flavor from that lighter, but if you get a little magnifying glass and you take that bong rip or pipe or however you want to do it, there's none of that involved, and it's just straight solar. Yeah, it's beautiful.
I'm so glad I asked, man. A big thanks to Michael for telling his story today. Were you able to pick up on any of the necessary delusions that he was talking about? I'm just looking to get a little piece, little slice, little taste of who a person is, how they think, where they've been, what drives them. And I think that the best that I can do in listening to these stories is finding a little piece of myself. So I hope you were able to do that too. And now I'm sounding like Mr. Rogers, so I'm gonna end it. If you're the kind of earth monster who likes this kind of conversation, please subscribe to the channel. I have had only the most compelling conversations by posting this ad on Craigslist and getting on this video chat with complete strangers to ask them super intimate questions about their lives. So I'm always surprised and excited to share them. And we've got a lot of great stories to come. So subscribe to the show. We'll see you next time. Oh, and one more thing. Try to figure out what kind of earth monster you want to be. Now I'm going full Mr. Rogers. Get an idea and hang on to it tight like a dog with a bone. Think it, feed it, do it. We will be back next week with more epic, everyday stories of success and redemption. You'll see me next time.